Hi, I'm Vanessa Calloway. You may know me as an actress for film, stage, and television, but did you know that I'm a breast cancer survivor? And along with the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Foundation, I want to welcome you into my company of friends. Come on in. Hi, welcome to In the Company of Friends with Susan G. Komen, and today I have with me Miss Sheryl Lee Ralph, who is an actress and a dear friend for many years.
How about that?
How about that? And the creator of the Diva Foundation, which benefits the AIDS crisis here in our Black community for almost 20 years now. And
20, girl, almost 30.
Almost 30 years now, right?
30 years
30
next year.
Forgive me, 30 years. I thought it was 30 years,
Yes.
25 at least, right? And Dr. Dennis Holmes, who's on the board of Susan G. Komen, is a researcher, a surgeon, and also you have a lot to do with clinical trials. And that's what we're going to talk about today, because clinical trials is something that I don't think our community is really aware about.
That's right.
And something that I think everybody can benefit from. So, Dr. Holmes, why are you involved in clinical trials?
Well, clinical trials are so important because it's the way that we move cancer care forward. I mean, we treat women now based upon trials that were done in the past, and we will treat women in the future based upon what we learn about treating breast cancer now. It's a way that we move the ball and make treatment options better for women.
So in your breast cancer practice, you were just a regular surgeon and then you got interested in clinical trials. How did you make that transition?
Well, I was inspired to become a breast surgeon because I knew that that was one of the most innovative areas of cancer care. We are committed to learning what we're doing now, figuring out ways to do it better, and then applying that to treatment for women in the future. So much of my career has focused on looking at new ways of doing things. In fact, the inspiration for that truly is women. They often come to me and they say, well, why are we doing this now? Why can't we do this better?
That's right.
And so that has led to advances in how we treat radiation, how we treat with surgery, and even ways to treat non-surgically, to treat breast cancers with perhaps freezing the tumor instead of removing the tumor. That's one example of a clinical trial under development. But the point is that, everyone wants a better outcome. We want to have more effective treatments, we want to have safer treatments, and clinical trials are the way that we achieve those goals.
Now, Sheryl, tell us a little bit about your journey with Divas. And you also have your show that you do every year, Diva Simply Singing, that benefits AIDS. What was your impetus? What got you involved in AIDS?
Well, it was where you and I started.
Yeah.
I mean, it was being a part of that original company of Dreamgirls on Broadway.
Lost so many friends.
Exactly. And I mean, it was really difficult for me as a young woman to sing and dance with somebody in the evening, and then to hear of somebody suffering, trying to hold on to their life the next day. That to me was devastating. And when I saw my friends get sick and die, and our country was able to stand up and say, there's no help for you. We don't help people like you. It just upset the little church girl in me, and I was like, we can do better than this. What was it? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Don't do unto them before they do unto you, and that's really where the impetus came. And I just said, coming out here after leaving Broadway, I want to forever raise up the memory of the many friends that I lost.
So how do you do that? How do you do that? You just go in your pocketbook?
I call people like you up.
You go in your pocketbook and just say, I'm going to start a foundation, right?
That's exactly what I did that first year. You were there with me that first year.
I mean, to have anything that you are so steadfast and you believe so hard and passionate in to do for almost 30 years is amazing, because some people do things and they'll drop off a year and they'll take a break here and they come back, but consistently you have done this every year.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It had to be done. I knew things that the only thing that really shocks me about it is that I really thought we'd have had a cure by now. I really thought that we would have a vaccine or something. I thought it was going to be so different. I did not think we'd be fighting so many of the same fights around the country, which when we were doing this, we still had to convince people that you should join clinical trials, you should be a part of it, because without you, there's no place to start. We're in the dark. The way the virus might operate on somebody who is not Black could be different than somebody who is
Right.
based upon what we find
Your
out
genetic.
by you
Right, 'cause your genetics
joining
was-
this
yeah.
trial.
Breast cancer is the most common cancer among Black women. We are more likely to be diagnosed younger, at later stages, and with more aggressive forms of the disease, which limits our treatment options.
But what I found so often is, very often we know nothing about the trials. We're not told about the trials, and we're not made to feel comfortable because we've been experimented on so much
I was going to say,
in
what
the
do you
past.
think we all know about
Tuskegee,
yeah.
exactly.
I was going to say, what do you think the fear is? I mean, especially when it comes to like breast cancer and AIDS, two of the diseases that are just ravaging and taking over our lives in so many ways that, like you said, you thought by now there'd be a cure. We're still looking for a cure for cancer.
Right.
You know, I'm a breast cancer survivor myself,
Right.
so you know, I'm very passionate about it. What do you think the fear is?
Well, I have a slightly different take on it. I mean, I certainly understand, and many of us understand, that the challenges of Tuskegee and how that has influenced people over the years. But my experience with clinical trials is different. People, at least in cancer care, want better options, and they recognize that clinical trials are a way to achieve them. Now, you know, with any clinical trial, there are risks and there are unknowns, but having a well-informed patient, having a well-informed doctor to give them options does make women see possibilities where there might not be some possibilities. For example, there are treatments that you can only get if you're in a clinical trial. If it is desired treatment, maybe a treatment that is more effective or treatment that is safer, clinical trials might be the only way to get access to that treatment. And many people that come to see me are looking for different ways or better ways to treat. So it really is an opportunity. I find that, you know, a few years ago I did a study among African American and Hispanic women, you know, the group that never participates in clinical trials, one would think. And these were cancer trials that we conducted where we had 70% participation in clinical trials.
Right.
Not 5% or 3%,
No, 70.
but 70%. The difference was giving them options
Yes.
to choose, having a range of trials. Not everyone has the same risk tolerance. Some people are inclined to take very little risk, whereas some want to take more risk. But having a range of options, really a menu of trials for patients to choose from so they can find a trial that suits their level of risk.
And you also have to be in a place where that is offered to you.
Yes.
With my dad's cancer, my dad was offered different trials.
What
but
kind of
he
cancer did your dad have?
My dad passed away from, you know, it's so weird. It has been 6
still hurts.
years, and I still find it very
It's
hard
hard
to
to
say
discuss. Yeah.
and talk about
Yeah.
my dad's passing and cancer.
Every
you
time
know,
I tell
but-
my cancer story, there's points where I still choke up. So I totally understand.
Yeah, it was
So
prostate
thank you for
cancer.
sharing. I know it's difficult. Thank you for sharing.
It was prostate cancer, and then it metastasized into lymphoma. So, but you know, he was offered, you know, certain trials, but I was just like, it's so late. It was
Had he
so
been offered
late. Had he
earlier,
been offered it earlier, I mean, who knows? My dad passed away at 86, so he lived quite a good life. But you know, he was so dynamic and so full of
Yes,
life.
he was. I remember your dad.
That I just wish that these things had been offered to him, you know, sooner. But you know, very often, you know, we think, you know, about the well-informed, the well-informed patient and all of that. There are a lot of people who are afraid still to take the flu vaccination
Yes.
because they get sick. And then you would hear, it's not possible, you can't get sick. And now this year, they're saying to you, well, you know, a lot of people did get sick last year. But and you're like,
Oh, and they said this year, but you're not going to get it.
but you're not going to get sick this year. You know?
I have to admit, I'm one of those people. I'm like, I'm going to pass on the flu.
Exactly.
I take good care of myself, and I've been lucky so far. So I'm
I
a
take
pass.
it every year.
The campaign is called Know Your Girls because it can be life-saving to know your girls, your breast, as intimately and as deeply as you know the girls in your life. The women who love you, who support you, celebrate you, the women who hold you up through it all. Your moms, aunties, your sisters, your best friends, your sorors, and your daughters. Have you seen any major strides, like any technology that's really bursted out, any new developments?
You know, I've committed my entire career to this, to conducting clinical trial and treatment innovations. And even in my short career, I've seen some dramatic changes. For example, 10 years ago, actually 15 years ago, we started researching different ways of giving radiation to treat breast cancer. As you may know, typical way of giving radiation after lumpectomy is a 6-week course of daily radiotherapy. We started looking at the option of treating with a single dose of radiation given at the time of surgery, completely replacing that 6-week course. After the clinical trial was completed, we found that the 1-day course was as effective as a 6-week course.
Wow.
And now we're offering that routinely.
Wow.
That's in my career. I'm currently conducting a study looking at cryoablation, which is tumor freezing, as an alternative to surgery for small breast tumors.
Is that sort of like that cool, what is that cool thing? Cool sculpting where they freeze the fat.
That's a way of...
That's plastic surgery.
Right, but the concept of cryoablation, which is freezing, which just like can kill fat with cool sculpting, we can actually kill breast tumors as well.
Oh, do they do that with cysts? Because I think I might have had that in the uterus. Isn't that a procedure?
Yes. Cryoablation has been used for decades.
I think I have that. I've had a few things, but I'm still here.
Amen.
But now it's emerging as an option for breast cancer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so, if the tumor's small, if it's the size of basically 2 centimeters or smaller, which is about the size of a nickel or smaller, it can
and then you won't need radiation.
For older women in this particular trial, age 70 and older, they receive no radiotherapy, they receive no breast surgery, they receive no lymph node surgery.
Oh.
Wow.
So, that's a very desirable option for many women.
Rather than having it removed completely.
Having surgery of the breast, surgery of the lymph nodes, and radiation.
Wow.
We can replace those with a single 30-minute visit to the office with cryoablation, done while you're awake on the table. So I'm not saying that this is it's a solution for all women, but the point is that this option is emerging as a result of clinical trials.
Right.
We did earliest phase trials where we studied the tumor, we ablated the tumor, and then removed it to prove that the techniques worked. And now that we have the confidence through clinical trials to prove that that works, we can actually treat without removal of the tumor, so that it's now a convenient office-based alternative to surgery, anesthesia, radiotherapy for the right women.
That's why this is so important, so that somebody who is watching hears the message that they know they are not alone. And to speak up, you are worthy of the help that is out there for you. What you must do now is access yourself for that help. Go on and get it because you are so deserving.
I couldn't have said it better, Miss Sheryl Lee Ralph. I think you just closed out this segment for me.
There you go.
But I want to thank you both so much for coming and sharing. And I think one thing we've all gotten out of this, if you know somebody or you yourself, don't be afraid to do a clinical trial because it may save your life. It definitely may help other people. And we're on a cutting edge of technology and medicine in so many ways. So many diseases. We have such a long way to go that we've got to experiment and just see what happens. So I thank you guys for coming into my company of friends.
There you go. Pleasure.
We're so
pleasure.
happy you're here.
Thank you. And thank you to Susan G. Komen.